Hello guys, welcome back again in our 7th video right now in our mini course to learn how to use Noah 2.0. In the last video, we learned how to set up a daily goal. So if you click on play right now and you go to settings, you can set a daily target, let's say 1000 milliliter, and then you'll be able to see it here. Now, in this video, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make this expression here work to show how much remaining we have to hit our goal, and we're gonna also make the circular progress bar here also move. Now, this video will be about using expressions, so get your cup of coffee and focus with me, because here we're gonna deal with some mathematical equations to calculate the number here and to calculate the circular progress bar here. So now we will start first with this field, which is to calculate the remaining. And first of all, I have this inside the home screen, but as you remember, when we did the navigation bar, we had the index stacked and we had 3 components. So now it's better that you handle or you deal with the component directly. So I have here the home component, and I will drop it from the files panel to the board to deal with it. Okay, I will close the files panel so I can focus. So what I'm gonna do right now in this video, because we're gonna talk about expressions and focus on expressions, I'm gonna build the expression here and the one for the circular progress bar here in 3 ways. The first way, using the custom expression by writing it down. The second way, we're gonna use the expression builder. And the third way, we're gonna use a function. So let's get going. So here I have now the remaining. So to calculate the remaining, first I'm gonna just connect it to the water state, to let's say the today water intake, which is the total I have, and I will convert it to string. This is only because when I click on the custom expression, I want to see the expression already written, because since we are accessing a variable, which is the today water intake, from the global state, you cannot simply just write down today water intake, because then it will try to access it from the local, but it's not a local variable. Therefore, we have to write it down this way, which is the global state, and then we're passing the context. If you don't know what is that, it's fine, it's just something in the code. And then in the end, we are converting the number to a string so we can display it. So I connected the text property to the today water intake in the global state just because I'm lazy and I don't want to write this down myself. I want Noah to write it for me, and then I want to start modifying. So to calculate the remaining, as a very simple equation, we're going to subtract the water today intake from the total goal or the daily goal. So to do that, first of all, I'm going to remove the toString because I will need this in the end. And now here I'm accessing the today water intake. So I'm going to copy the whole expression, paste it here, put the negative, and then change the today water intake to daily goal. And this is the variable we have in the water state that presents the daily goal. If I click on evaluate, it tells me there's no problem. I can see here the expression being built, which is I'm using minus between the daily goal and the today water intake. But as you can see here, show me a problem. It's an integer, it's not a string. So let's get back to the expression, and we put the entire expression between brackets, and then we convert it to string by pressing dot and then writing down to string and then calling this function. So what's happening right now is it will calculate first what's between the brackets, which is taking the today water intake from the daily goal, and then the result, which will be a number, will be converted to a string, which is a text, because the text property inside the widget text accepts string only. So click on evaluate, close. Now we have 0 because of the default values, because we have a default value of the daily goal of a 0 and the total intake also as 0. So now if we click on play, don't select anything, so you start from the home screen, and then we go to the settings, and then we set a daily goal. Let's say we're gonna set 2000. If we come back home, we can see the remaining now is 2000. If you add water, it will subtract it. Even if you add like a custom amount, let's say, it will subtract it to display the remaining. But then what's going to happen if I keep going? So if I keep going now, it will start being in the negative, which I don't like that. I also don't like that it doesn't have the milliliter, which is the unit. Also, I found out that here in the goal, there was no space between the 2000, which is the daily goal, and the unit milliliter. So let's modify those things. So I'm going to go to the daily goal, and actually it's not connected. I just found out it's not connected to the daily goal. So I'm going to connect it to the daily goal, which is inside the water state, and then convert it to string. Then I will go again to the custom expression and add milliliter here. So you add a space first and then add a milliliter to have a space between the number here and the unit. Now here it's good. Let's do the same thing also for the remaining. Here we have all of this, which is the total, the remaining amount, and then I will add plus, and then I will put space, and then I will add the unit, then evaluate, and then we're good to go. So now if we go and we set a daily goal to, let's say, 3000 this time, and we go to the home screen, we can see the goal is 3000, the remaining is 3000, and then the remaining will change. Now again, the problem is when it starts to go to the negative, we want to handle that. So in this case, what I want to do is that if the today total intake is bigger than the daily goal, which means I already passed my daily goal, then instead of showing the number itself in the negative, I will just write down congrats. So let's do that with the custom expression. So I will come back again, open the custom expression. So all of this will be the expression I want only if the daily goal is bigger than the today water intake. Otherwise, I'm gonna display congrats. So as you saw already in the last videos, we explained something called conditional expression, which means that instead of always executing the same expression, I can execute one of two expressions depending on a condition. So first of all, I'm gonna write down the condition in the beginning. And the condition will be if, let's say, the today water intake, which is this one, is smaller than the daily goal. So I'm gonna go to the beginning, paste the today water intake, then put smaller, and then change this to daily goal. So now we have the condition here, which is if the today water intake is smaller than the daily goal, then we put the question mark, which means that if this is true, execute this expression, but in the end, we can add this, which means that if it's false, then execute the other one, which is congrats. So what's happening now? This is a condition that we have, and if it's true, which means like today water intake is less than daily goal, then it will only execute this part, which is gonna calculate the remaining and convert it to string. If this is false, it will ignore completely this part and jump to the part here, which comes after the double dot here, and execute congrats. So let's evaluate, close now. Now it shows congrats because the daily goal is 0 and the today total intake is 0. So the condition is false because now the today water intake is not less than the daily goal. So let's click on play and it will start with congrats just because of that. Now we can modify it as well to also say if the number is 0, just don't show anything. Actually, we can do that. Let's do that. I'm gonna make it maybe slightly bigger. That's why in this case, maybe it's not the best option to write it down with the custom expression. We're gonna see another way which will be easier. But let's say you want to do with the custom expression, you can also do that. So I can say that I can put all of this inside another expression. So it might get a little bit dirty, but let's try to do that. So we're gonna say that if the daily goal is 0, then I don't want all of this. I want to just show maybe a slash. So we're gonna go one step behind again and put another conditional expression and say if the daily goal doesn't equal 0, then execute all of this. Otherwise, I'm gonna go to the end here, close it with the brackets. So the daily goal here, we're gonna put this between brackets, which will execute all of this. And then here, we're gonna put, so let's see if it's gonna work. So what I'm doing right now is I'm doing a nested condition. So first it will come to the first part. It will see that it has a condition, which is if the daily goal doesn't equal 0. If it doesn't equal 0, it will go inside here. If it does equal 0, it will ignore all of that and go to the last part, which is after the double dot, and execute this one. So it will return just a slash. Now, if this was true and the daily goal is not 0, then it will go to the inner part. And then it will face another condition, which is the today water intake less than the daily goal? If yes, it will calculate the remaining. If not, it will return congrats. So let's see that. Now, here we can see it's choosing the dash because the daily goal is 0. So when it starts to evaluate the condition, the first one, the bigger one, the one in the top, it was false. So it just jumped to the end of it and it just gave me the dash. Let's click on play. So now we have the remaining dash because we don't have a daily goal. If we go and we set the daily goal to, let's say, 2000, and we come back again to the home, now we can see that the remaining is 2000. And now because the first condition became true, the daily goal is not 0 anymore. Therefore, it jumped to the second part, which is the other condition, that is the today total intake less than the daily goal. And in this case, yes, so it calculates the difference. Now, what's going to happen if I exceed my daily goal? So let's just keep adding water until I exceed my daily goal. Then I will see congrats. So I hit my goal. So great. So now we build this expression. Now let's see how we can build the same expression in another way, which is using the expression builder. So to do that, I'm gonna first detach the expression here, and then I'm gonna build it from scratch. So instead of going to custom expression, write it down myself, I can do something else, which is going to expressions. And then I can see I have conditional, I have math, and I have if null, which will check if a variable is null or not. Now, since we saw that we need conditions, we're gonna go with the conditional. And in the conditional is, there is a condition, and if it's true, it will execute this part, and if false, it will execute that part. So the first condition is if the daily goal is not 0. So the condition, we're gonna go again to an expression, but this time we're gonna go to a logical expression. So a logical expression is an expression that will evaluate according to a logic and returns a boolean, which is true or false. And in the condition here, you have to have something that returns true or false. So we're going to go to the logical expression. And so now we have to decide what's going to be the left side and the right side. So now here we are building the first part of the expression, which is if the daily goal is bigger than 0. And because of this, we're going to compare two integers now, and then we're going to go and see, we're going to choose greater than. So now here we have a condition, a logical one, that it will check if the left side is greater than the right side. Now the left side is the global state, is the daily goal in the global state. So we're going to go to the globals and then water state and then choose daily goal. The right side will be 0. So what this expression is doing right now, it is comparing if the daily goal is greater than 0. So the left side is the daily goal, the right side is 0, the operator is greater than. And because it's integer, it's comparing two integers. The daily goal is an integer and 0 is an integer. So this is going to be the condition here, which is if the daily goal bigger than 0. So if the daily goal bigger than 0, then do something. Otherwise, I'm going to actually return the dash here. So this is going to happen when the daily goal is 0. And we can see actually that, look here on the designer, it's already taking the part of the else. Because right now, because the default value of the daily goal is 0, this condition already returning false. Therefore, this is a part that is getting executed now on the board. So now I'm seeing here 0 because of this. But now I want this to be dash, which means that if there's no daily goal yet, then you don't have to calculate the remaining because I'm waiting for the user to set the daily goal. Now here, we're going to go for the other part, which is another conditional expression. And this conditional expression, we have another condition. So if the daily goal is not 0, we're going to go to the second step, and then we're going to check if the today water intake is less than the daily goal, which means that the user still did not hit their daily goal. So in the condition, we're gonna go again to the expressions and build a conditional, or actually a logical expression. So in the logical expression now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna compare the today water intake and the daily goal. So the type is integer because we're gonna compare two integers. We will check if the left side is what smaller than the right side. The left side gonna be today water intake. So we're gonna go to the global state and then check the today water intake. The right side will be the daily goal. So now we have this condition, which means if the today water intake, which is the total amount the user drink at that time, is smaller than the daily goal, then it will execute this part, otherwise it will execute that part. Now, the otherwise part is congrats, because the otherwise part means that the user already passed their daily goal, because this is false anymore. So the today water intake is not smaller than the daily goal anymore, which means that the user passed their goal. But if the user still didn't pass their goal, then I will calculate the remaining. So I will go to the math expression because now I want to calculate a number. And because I want to calculate a number, I need a math expression because it will just return the result. So the operator will be minus, and I will use again two integers. The left side will be on the equation the daily goal. So I'm going to go to globals again, to the water state, select the daily goal. The right side will be the today water intake. So now, what is the expression? I'm subtracting the today water intake from the daily goal. So now let's go back again and see what we built already. So we built the first expression, which is if the daily goal is 0 or not. If the daily goal is 0, return a dash. If not, then go to the second condition. In the second condition, we're going to check if the today water intake is smaller than the daily goal. If it is smaller than the daily goal, then I will have an expression to calculate the remaining. And if not, which means that the today water intake is equal or more than the daily goal, which means the user hit their goal. So I will show congrats. Now, if you want to see what you build, you can come back again and click on custom expression, and you can see again the same expression we wrote, but it was written by itself at this point. But here we can see a very small problem, which is if we are calculating the subtraction here, if we are subtracting the water reminder from the daily goal, this will return an integer, but the text field expecting a string. So we're going to put just brackets around this part and then call to string. So just because we did the math equation, but we didn't convert it to a string. So when the expression hit this expression, it will then return an integer, which is a number, but it will try to show a number inside a text, which it might crash. So we need to put this between brackets and then convert it to string so it doesn't cause any problem. Because if you can see here, congrats is a string, it's a text. The dash also is a text. So even this one, after we subtract the today water intake from the daily goal, in the end we have to convert it to a string. Okay, then click on evaluate, and now let's try again. So now if we see in the beginning we don't have a daily goal, so we have the remaining as dash. We can then set the daily goal to be, let's say, 2000. Come back again to the home. Now if we click, we can see the number is changing, and after we pass, we can see congrats. So we build this expression in two ways. Let's see the third way, which actually might be the easier way between all of this. So the problem, honestly, in those expressions, because you're accessing the global state. So when you access the global state, you will have like a really long expression, which is the water state dot. And honestly, I don't like to say this a lot. And since I'm already comparing the daily goal and the water intake from the same global state, it makes sense that I just make a function in that state to calculate all of that and just give me the result back. So let's do that. So I will go to the water state and I will create a function to calculate the remaining. So I will just create a function and I will call it get remaining. And the return type will be a string because I will connect it in the end with that text widget, so I want it to return a string. Now, we will go and add an if statement. And this condition, we're going to check if the daily goal is 0 or not. So I will go to the condition. So here I can do it in two ways. I can simply go to the custom expression and write down if the condition, which is like the daily goal, doesn't equal 0, and evaluate. So now I have the first part, which is like, if the daily goal does not equal 0, then I will do all my calculations. Otherwise, in the false, I will return. I can actually just find the return here, and I'm going to return dash. So this is the first part of the condition. Also, you can, instead of writing down the expression yourself, you can, again, go to the expressions and just build it. So let me try to do that. I will detach what I wrote before, and then I will go to the expression, and I want a logical expression. So the logical expression, I'm going to compare again to integers. And here, notice that there is no water state.context because I'm already inside the global state. So now those variables for me, the daily goal and the today water intake, are local because I'm already inside the global state. So for me, the variables are located in the same place where I'm building the function. But before, I was in the designer in the main screen, and I'm accessing the global state, which is another object. That's why accessing today water intake and the daily goal required some more parts before. So because I need to access first the water state and then access the variables. But here I can already access the variables directly because I'm already inside the global state. So here what I'm doing is I want to choose not equal. So the left side will be here the daily goal. Notice I now can access from the locals because now the daily goal is a local because I'm already inside the global state. So for me, those variables became local at this point because it's relative. So it's local when you are in the same place. It's not local when you are outside, like in the home screen. So now I have the left side is daily goal and the right side is 0. So now the operator is not equal and I'm comparing the daily goal to 0. So if they are not equal, which means then it will go to this part, otherwise it will just return dash. So we can build even the condition inside the if statement in also two ways, by writing the condition down or by building it using the expression builder. So now if it's true, I will also have another if statement, which is the daily goal, or if the today water intake less than the daily goal. So the condition here will be to expressions, and then I will have a logical expression. I will compare two integers, and the operator will be smaller, as we already saw before, smaller than. The left side will be the today water intake, and the right side will be the daily goal. So now I'm saying, we can just try that, click on custom expression to see it. If the today water intake is less than the daily goal. If yes, then go here, and then here I will I can actually do it in two ways. I can do it in 2 steps or 1 step. I can directly just click on return and then calculate here the return, or what I can do to make it slightly easier, I can create a local variable. So this local variable will only be inside this function. So after the function is done, it will be deleted. And this local variable will just calculate the remaining. And then I will return this local variable. So here in the expression for this local variable, what I will do, I will go to the math, and then I will use minus. I will do this between 2 integers. Now the left side will be the daily goal, and the right side will be the today water intake. So now what I'm doing is I created a variable. Okay, I need to change the type to an integer. Oops, I just lost what I wrote. Actually, I will do it again, but now with the custom expression. So I'm gonna write just like what I want is I want to subtract the today water intake from the daily goal, evaluate. Then this will be stored in a variable I will call result, and then I will return this result. So I will go back again here, add return, and then choose the result. And then the result is an integer, but again, this function returns a string, so I need to convert this to a string by clicking here. Okay, so let's again look at this and zoom out a little bit if you got lost in the meanwhile. So let's go back from the beginning. We have a function that returns a string. This will calculate the remaining. This string will just be displayed directly in this box. Now, in the first, I'm checking if the daily goal is 0 or not. So if the user did not set a daily goal, it doesn't make sense that I could do calculations because the user still didn't set that number. So I will just return a dash. If the user set a daily goal, which means that the daily goal is not 0, then I will go to the second condition to check if the user did hit their goal or not. I can know that by calculating if the today water intake is less than the daily goal or not. If it's less, meaning that I will go for true, which means that the user still didn't hit their daily goal. So I will just calculate what's remaining, which means I will do it by subtracting the today water intake, which is the total amount that the user drank at that time, from their daily goal, and then I will return the result. So I stored the result of the subtraction in a variable called result, and then I'm just returning this variable. But because result is a number, it's an integer, but the function here is a string, so it requires like a text, I need to just call the function toString to convert the number to a string. Now, if the day water intake is not less than the daily goal, which means that the user already hit their goal, then I can simply here return congrats. And that's it. All right, so now we're done. Let's go back again to the board. And now I can simply, let me detach what we wrote before, and then let's go to the text, and then go to the global state, which is the water state, and then call the function get remaining. Amazing. So now we can see the dash, which is, of course, the default result, because the daily goal is 0, because the default value is 0, as we talked about it before. So let's test. So now let's go and set a daily goal like 2,500 this time, and then go to the home. I can see the remaining being correct, and then it's being calculated. Then here it arrived to congrats. Now, a question is, how does this get updated in the function? Because we already at calling notify listeners when we add an amount here, because we're doing that, it refreshes already the UI. So this means that since the UI is getting refreshed every time we're already adding values, then the function here will just keep calculating what's remaining. So we don't need to worry about the update, just because when we click, we're already updating the screen, because if you remember, in the function of add water log, we are already calling notify listener. So anyway, when we are adding a water log, or when we also set a daily goal in the other function, we're both calling notify listener. So anyway, we are updating the UI when any change happens in the daily goal and the adding of the water log. So that's why we can see the number being updated inside the remaining, even though we're not calling any type of notify listeners for the function. Okay, now let's do the same thing for the circular progress bar. So if you have still some confusion from the remaining now, this one might be actually easier. So the progress bar, the way it works, the circular progress bar, let's undo the change. Now here we have a value. So the value between 0 and 1. So if it's 0, then the progress bar will show that there's nothing. If like 0.5, it's going to be half. If like 0.75, going to be 75% done. And then if it's 1, going to be full done. Or even if it's 2 or 3, it will also show that it's fully done. So now keep it for 0.5. So what we want is that we want this value to change according to the number. So the equation is very simple. We're just going to divide the today total intake on the daily goal. So this is the equation. We're just going to divide the today total intake over the daily goal. So this will give me a percentage. So if this is like less than the daily goal, then it will be less than 1. Now, if it's more, and it's like this returns more than 1, so if the today total intake was like 2,000, but the daily goal is like 1,000, then this will return 2. But it's fine, as we saw already, the number is bigger than 1, the progress bar will just be full. The only problem here is that, let's go back to school and remember, guys, that we cannot divide over 0. So if daily goal is 0, you cannot divide over 0. So then we will need also here a conditional expression to avoid dividing over 0. So let's implement this. So here we're going to go to the value, and we will start the first method, which is writing custom expression. Now, just because I don't want to write it myself, I want the expression to be written already, I will just call the water intake. And then I don't need even to convert it to a string, because I will modify it anyway. So now I have here the today water intake. So the equation is, I will divide this over the daily goal. That's it. But then the problem is when it's 0, you can see now it's crouching because the default value of the daily goal is 0. So by default, you will have this issue. So now let's go back again to the custom expression and add a conditional and convert this expression from an expression that it just returns number to a conditional expression, which is we're going to check if the daily goal is not 0. So if the daily goal doesn't equal 0, then do this calculation. Otherwise, I will return actually 1. No, I will actually return 0. By the way, the value here expects a double, not a string. So we don't need to do to string anymore because here it already wants us to return a number. So if I click on evaluate, it's good. So now, because the daily goal is 0, it will not go for the part where it is dividing the today water intake over the daily goal. It will just return 0. So which means that, the user didn't still set a daily goal, so the progress bar showed that still there is no progress. And now for me, what I'm going to do also is now let's try to play the app. So now if we go and we set a daily goal, let's say 2000, we go back to home. Now when we add water, we can see the progress bar is improving. And if we hit the goal and it's becoming even more, it's okay because if the number is bigger than 1, it will just show a full progress bar. Amazing. So we build this in the first way. Now let's build it in the second way. So let's go to the progress bar, detach it, and then we're going to go and build it using the expression builder. So the first thing, again, we need a conditional expression. And by the way, notice that here the return is double just because the value here expects a double. So the expression in the end should return what the property expects, which is a double. So we're going to go to a conditional expression. Now, in the conditional expression, also you can see here that it expects to return a double because, as you saw already, a conditional expression, it has a condition, but then according to this condition, it will execute this part or that part. But anyway, this part or that part, both of them should be from the type double because it is expecting a type double. Now, the condition is if the daily goal is not 0. So we're going to go and go to the logical. But here, by the way, notice that the type is Boolean because now you are building expression for this property, which is a condition. And the condition here, if you just hover over it, it will show Boolean because this part expects true or false. That's it. So whatever you will do as an expression should return in the end true or false. Now, my expression will be a logical expression because I will do a comparison. And I will compare two numbers. So I will go for integer. Okay, we are seeing a problem because I'm using logical AND with an integer, which doesn't make sense. Like an integer, I'm going to compare something like not equal or equal. Then I will go to the left side and the right side. So the left side will be, it doesn't matter in this case because it's just not equal. So I will go for the daily goal and 0. So the condition here that the daily goal is not equal to 0. If it's not equal to 0, which means this will be true, then it will execute this part. Otherwise, it will execute that part. Actually, if you can guess right now which part right now from this condition is the one being displayed in the designer, it is that part. Why? Because the daily goal default value is 0. So which means this condition is false by default because the daily goal is 0, which means this is the part that will be executed. So if we change this to 0.5, we can see it's already, it will change because this is now the part that will be executed because this condition is false. But anyway, I want when the daily goal is not 0, that the result to be returned 0 because I want to display an empty progress bar because the user still didn't set their daily goal. Now, if the daily goal is not 0, which means that the user already choose a daily goal, then I need to do the division. So I will go to the expression, I will go to the math expression, and I will have to do an expression for two integers, which are the daily goal and the today total intake, and the operator will be divide. So the left side, as you remember, is this one, and the right side is the daily goal. So here again, I'm going to go to the globals, and the left side will be the today water intake, and the right side will be the daily goal. Okay, so now I have the today water intake divided by the daily goal, and this is going to be the expression I will execute when the daily goal here is not 0. So let's now test it by pressing on play. Now I don't have any progress bar. Good. If I go to the daily target, set 3000 this time, go back to home. If we add, then we can see the number increasing. And if I add like, I don't know, 600 here, and then add another custom amount here, then it all works great. Now let's do this again with the third way, which is using the global state. So I will create a function here, and I will call the function get progress bar value. So I will get the value of the progress bar. And the type, as you remember, it wants a double, so I have to choose a double to be able to connect it to value here, because the value here, the value in the progress bar here is a double, so I have to have a function that returns the same type. Now, here in the progress bar, as you remember, we have an if statement, and the condition, I'm going to just write it now with the custom expression, if the daily goal doesn't equal to 0. So if the daily goal is not equal to 0, then if it is equal to 0, which means false, then I will simply just return 0. That's it. If it's true, then I will actually return the result, which is I'm going to just divide the today water intake over daily goal. Evaluate. Now, that's it. Or, again, I will detach. So if you want to do it in the other way, which is using the expression builder, if you don't want to like think about matching exactly, because you also have to be aware that the variables are case sensitive. So if you change like a capital to a small letter, it will not know that you are actually referring to the same variable. So if you want to avoid that and you just want to build the expression using the expression builder, you can do that. So what I want to do is just a math expression. I will need to use division again, and the left side will be this time the today water intake, and the right side will be the daily goal, and that's it. So now we can just close the logic and then go back to the board and then just go to the progress bar, detach the older expression we had, and then go to the globals and then pick the new function, which is get progress bar value, which is from the type double. So if we do this and we click on play, and now we can see that it's 0 by default again. And if we set 5000 this time as a daily goal, we come back again to the home, and then we can see it's working perfectly to the end. Amazing. Now we are done with the custom expressions. I hope now by this video, you should be an expert in building expressions inside Noah. So now the next video, we're going to deal with local storage, like how to store and load values from the local storage using shared preference on the user's phone. Thank you for watching, guys, and see you again in the upcoming video.